And I am talking about coal in the Gilded Age. And the title has changed slightly to Black Diamonds, Gilded Promises, Twain and the Energy of Satire in the Gilded Age. The Gilded Age, A Tale of Today by Mark Twain and Charles Dudley Warner is a satirical novel critiquing greed, corruption, and social issues of the post-Civil War United States. The novel follows two intertwined stories, the Hawkins family and Philip Sterling, as they both pursue financial success through speculative ventures in natural resources, specifically in mining. The Hawkins family, led by Silas Hawkins and aided by Colonel Beriah Sellers, a charismatic con artist, spend much of the novel hoping to commercialize a piece of land in the knobs of East Tennessee, overvaluing its imagined variety of minerals and other resources. Meanwhile, Sterling almost destroys himself searching for coal in a Pennsylvania mine, seeking wealth in a manner that costs his friends and sponsors, the Bolton family, their country home once replete with rare trees and flowers, as well as garden and lawn and conservatories. A kind of Edenic scene. Though the novel's success story, Sterling's triumph comes at a cost. The Boltons lose almost everything supporting him, and while he wins the Bolton daughter Rose to be his wife at the end, she sacrifices her dreams of a medical career to become a mere wife. I argue that Twain anticipates energy humanities and environmental critique by exposing coal's hiding presence in Gilded Age culture. He transforms the supposedly neutral background of energy into an active player in the drama of corruption, expansion, and decline, as characters are continually driven towards the beautiful demon of money. That was a quote. The title, The Gilded Age, is itself a metaphor, suggesting a glittering surface ultimately hiding the true substance of what may be the rot of corruption. It's a novel firmly rooted in the world of the senses. According to Justin Kaplan, the novel, quote, echoes the sounds of its times, the rustle of greenbacks and the hiss of steam, pigs grunting in the village mud, the clang of railroad iron and the boom of blasting charges, the quiet talk of men in committee rooms and bankers' offices. Its raw materials are disaster, poverty, blighted hopes, bribery, hypocrisy, seduction, betrayal, blackmail, murder, and mob violence. It makes it sound like a really fun read. In terms of blasting charges, raw materials such as coal are one of the foregrounded subjects of the twin family plots of the novel. In her PMLA article, Patricia Yeager notes that even in 2011, the time of her writing, the age of coal is not close to being over. And man, did she not see what was coming. Could she have not? The kinds of energy used to produce material wealth and products are connected to culture. Culture and energy become parts of the same conversation. In the Gilded Age, Twain and Warner spotlight the labor and energy involved in the mining of coal, predating the energy revolution that occurred with the discovery of petroleum and oil. Elsewhere, in the same MLA special issue, Michael Zeiser applies coal energy to US literature, quote, the mining of coal, which must be brought by brute force from seams buried far below the ground, epitomizes the 0 degree of labor that so fascinated many 19th century intellectuals and underscores the ultimate dependence of even an advanced industrial society on the input of human energy. In the Gilded Age, Sterling spends most of the novel attempting to discover this vein of coal, eventually succeeding, but Twain and Warner focus on this force of human energy involved in mining. And this is something Twain would actually have had an intimate understanding of, having had his own experiences mining in silver mining in Nevada. Mark Twain has been connected to some of the most controversial issues of his time and beyond, issues such as racism, women's rights, imperialism, animal welfare, and the environment. His writing partner, Charles Dudley Warner, is known best for his editorial work as well as his nonfiction texts, My Summer in a Garden, his memoir, Being a Boy, and his travel narrative, In the Wilderness. According to Nathan Wolfe and others, Warner makes the famous proclamation often attributed to Twain, the weather in New England is a matter about which a great deal is said and very little done. Both authors consider the more than human world in their works. This lyricism appears, for example, in the river scene in the novel's early chapters, when Twain writes, when the sun went down, it turned all the broad river to a national banner laid in gleaming bars of gold and the purple and crimson, and in time these glories faded out in the twilight and left the fairy archipelagos reflecting their foliage in the steely mirror of the stream. He writes so beautifully about nature. How does more people not talk about his, environmental writing? While the novel is mostly about fake gold or gilt, and the lengths speculators will go to achieve quick wealth, some elements of the country remain lovely. Twain's beloved Mississippi River is here a canvas or a national banner for a sunset in genuine gold, not gilt. Moreover, the river makes a partial reference to key themes in the novel. Its steely mirror is a play on the sterling silvery tones associated with the surveyor turned miner Sterling. In his biography on Twain, Ron Powers observes Twain's aptitude for the necessary literary work of capturing the physical world, terrain, weather, architecture with words. Continuing that Twain's great accomplishments in this area are seldom remarked upon, even though they can be witnessed from the Mississippi River as national banner in the Gilded Age, through the Acropolis by night in The Innocents Abroad, through the Rockies as sultans of fastness in Roughing It, through the interior of a cave in Tom Sawyer. Instead of this focus, though, Twain is remembered more generally in terms of his satiric voice and his aphorisms, both of which are on display in the novel that he co-writes with Warner. A primary theme in the Gilded Age, then, is the impact of mining on the natural environment, seen especially in the example of coal. Twain and Warner depict a society in which the rapid expansion of industrialization was transforming the U.S. landscape, and many of the industries involved were turning to coal for their energy. While some Americans were concerned about the impact of these changes on the natural environment, most were looking for opportunities to capitalize on mineral resources. Sterling follows this trend of opportunism as he searches for coal in Pennsylvania. Twain and Warner play on the mining and speculation theme of the novel with the character's surname. Sterling is a word connected to silver, sure, to British money more generally, and to quality in terms of mineral as well as morality, according to sources like Merriam-Webster's and Oxford English Dictionary. So it is hardly a coincidence that the pair chose to name one of their main characters after a mineral Twain attempted unsuccessfully to mine in Nevada. Moreover, sterling is also the opposite of gilded. Sterling silver is high quality, while gilt is a fake layer put over lesser quality material for appearance sake. A more traditionally heroic and significantly less fun character than Colonel Sellers or the Hawkins family, Sterling nevertheless comes close to harming everyone in his drive for wealth through mining. Sterling is considered one of Warner's focal characters, and if you don't follow the Gilded Age, much is done about who wrote who and what and this kind of stuff, but generally Twain had his fingers in all the pies, and so he had his, I can speak to Twain in the whole book. But Sterling was like Warner's character that he created. So Philip Sterling is considered one of Warner's focal characters, and through him, Warner brought his own attitudes toward the more than human world to his work on the novel. After the Gilded Age, Warner would go on to write further about the more than human world, this time in his narrative In the Wilderness, where he depicts his experiences traveling in the Adirondacks. Mining appears in this work as well. In this case, the aftermath of the process of mining, what is left behind after an area has been denuded of its material wealth. I quote, "The most melancholy spot in the Adirondacks is not a tamarack swamp," he writes. "It is the village of the Adirondack Iron Works, where the streets of gaunt houses are falling to pieces, tenantless, the factory wheels have stopped, the furnaces are in ruins, the iron and wooden machinery is strewn about in helpless detachment, and heaps of charcoal, ore, and slag proclaim an arrested industry." Iron mining was a significant part of the economy of New York State in the first half of the 19th century, having begun in the Adirondack region in 1775. Warner chooses terms like melancholy, gaunt, and helpless to describe the town left abandoned once the commodity, in this case iron, had been fully accumulated and extracted from the area. Towns associated with mining and its connected industries, like an iron works, are not sustainable. There's nothing for the town to survive on following the full removal of ore from the region. They become ghost towns, leaving scars on the landscape. Warner's description of this unsustainability in the town resonate with Twain's experience in Nevada mining towns and is the kind of experience being drawn upon in their descriptions of Sterling. In addition, Twain contributes to the Sterling section through his history of mining silver in Nevada, as well as through his knowledge drawn from his father-in-law's coal mining company. As a young man, Olivia Langdon Clemens' father, Jervis Langdon, had purchased several hundred acres of rich Allegheny coal, pine tree land that turned out to be even richer in deposits of coal. He created the J. Langdon Coal Company, taking advantage of the industrial shift in the nation in the post-Civil War years, expanding his business into the Nova Scotia region of Canada, and creating a railroad system to help move this coal, largely for the Vanderbilt people. His company mined coal along the Great Shamokin Path of Pennsylvania, an old Native American trail. Langdon's company, therefore, was located where Twain and Warner placed Sterling in the novel. Furthermore, Langdon's coal empire left ecological stains in the region of Pennsylvania, including asbestos, that have remained well into the 21st century. Through Twain's relationship to Langdon, as well as his experience in Nevada's mines, not only did he understand the mechanics of mining silver or coal, but he also witnessed the scars mining leaves on the land. Twain also used the Langdon Coal Company to help him research a portion of the Gilded Age. He writes to Olivia to ask company leadership, quote, if a stream of water typically flows when a coal vein is discovered. He remembered that happens in silver mining, but he wanted to verify it for coal too. In Sterling's victorious scene where he strikes coal, Twain and Warner write, he sought the spot where the coal had lain. He had to look close, for the light was waning. Then, to make sure, he put his hand to the ground, and a little stream of water swept against his fingers. Thank God I've struck it at last. So you can see the trace from Twain doing that research. The little stream of water in the novel is a piece of environmental realism drawn from Twain's experience mining for silver in Nevada and his research with the Langdon Coal Company's knowledge of coal in Pennsylvania. Twain also understood the immense wealth mining can bring. Twain visited New York City to attend the Langdon Coal Company's annual meeting, as he was never one to shy away from ostentation and displays of wealth. Thomas Registead notes, although he described the experience in humorous terms, Twain was dazzled by his confidential view of naked capitalism. Wouldn't he be? Twain's twin concerns, desire for wealth and possible concerns for negative impacts of mining, add an element of ambiguity to historical forces at play within Sterling's success story. Sterling spends most of the Gilded Age struggling to find this rich vein of coal that would secure his fortune and allow him to marry his beloved Ruth Bolton. Up until the end of the novel, this is a long and tiring endeavor. Quote, the earth is never willing to yield one product hidden in her bosom without an equivalent for it. And when a person asks of her coal, she is quite apt to require gold in exchange. This section demonstrates the ongoing theme of gold or gilt that runs throughout the novel. Furthermore, it makes an ironic statement of the cost of mining for coal being worth perhaps even more than its weight in gold. Interestingly, it is the earth that is exacting this price from Sterling and others like him. The cost of mining and exploiting the earth of its mineral wealth is some other and comparable, and perhaps even more precious, true form of wealth. Sterling discovers this almost to his ruin before the end of the novel, but at seemingly the final moment, he finally strikes coal and saves himself and the Boltons from financial ruin. He describes his final attempt, in which he would put in a parting blast for luck. Sterling tells himself, coal or no coal, I will drive the tunnel clear through the hill. I will not surrender while I am alive. In theory, Sterling is described here admiringly, as this bulldog-ed, he's gonna do it, he's gonna see it through. But he's also bullheaded in his quest, willing to tunnel entirely through a mountain, perhaps unsuccessfully, rather than leave it alone. Though he finds coal at the final moment, perhaps the image left in readers' minds is more ambiguous than that. Moreover, there is a hint before Sterling finally strikes coal that he is contemplating abandoning a mine entirely. Twain and Warner are not explicit here, but in Sterling's desolation on that final day, it seems that he's considering moving on. As they write, arrived at the mouth of the tunnel, he threw his coat upon the ground, sat down on a stone, and his eye sought the westering sun and dwelt upon the charming landscape which stretched its woody ridges, wave upon wave, to the golden horizon. The West had by this point in U.S. culture become synonymous with freedom and expansion, as well as efforts to mine gold, silver, and other minerals, even as Sterling is doing his work in the East. Twain and Warner allude to this by describing the sunset's golden horizon. Whether Sterling would find success farther west, perhaps in the Mississippi River region or even farther, preceding Huck Finn, is finally made unnecessary, as at that moment he discovers coal in the east of Pennsylvania. However, perhaps some of the consequences of this drive to accumulate wealth, even at the cost of the destruction of the more than human world, can be seen in his brief reverie. The Gilded Age was not an unqualified success upon its publication. Greg Camfield notes the reviews of the novel were decidedly mixed. Many newspapers in the 19th century were unabashedly connected to political parties and would therefore express outrage against any book that attacked Washington, Wall Street, and westward expansion as directly and caustically as did the Gilded Age, which, by the way, I'm looking at Cole, but most people that look at this book look at the politics side of it, so he's mostly engaging with that. Even in these critical views of the novel, though, issues that continue into the 21st century are foregrounded. Wall Street and Washington remain as controversial and problematic in this century as they were in the time of Twain and Warner. Oh my goodness. In addition, while westward expansion is usually associated with the 19th century territorial westward expansion, the concept of globalization, traversing borders for economic gain, remains. Camfield does not specifically note concerns with energy humanities here, but they are connected. Coal is a significant issue in this busy novel. Readers are left with Twain's characteristic ambiguity by the end, and Zhang argues Twain's own ambivalence toward the power of money and the fever of speculation has clearly predestined the futility of his efforts. He condemned money which he believed had usurped the sacred throne of God, but the despised money was his very dream, a dream that he pursued all his life. While Twain and to some extent Warner were not the nature writers in the same vein of a Rachel Carlson, for example, as often stated by critics, there is a sharp satiric sense that comes out in the Gilded Age as the two challenge the innate speculative nature of people who hope to mine the more than human world for their own gilded benefit. Thank you.